Good morning, everyone. Good morning. There we go. 9 o'clock service is letting out. I want to get my part out of the way first so we can spend most of the time with the youth. Welcome to the Rector's Forum. Everyone turn a wave at the camera. Welcome everyone who's streaming online. Good to see all of you. Thrilled to have today some of the Trouvères, the youth choristers who went on our civil rights choir pilgrimage. And I'm not going to say anything about that because I'm going to be turning it over to people who are going to say a lot about that. My job is just to welcome you to this forum, encourage you to find a seat, to remind you that if you're new here, we're so thrilled that you're here. There is a welcome table out on the lawn, red welcome table, that has great welcome bags, lots of information about All Saints Church, a card to fill out so we can know you and help you learn more about this church and so we can learn more about you. I am going to sit down really quickly, but I'm looking for Jenny TC because I you're right here. And so I need to say that there are so many people who made this tour happen, and of all ages and generations. And I know like Ed and Hope Bacon were a great part of helping the pieces that happened in Montgomery and Birmingham happen. None of this wouldn't have happened without, you have no idea, not just the creative energy, but the hours and hours and hours of work from our choir director, Jenny TC. So can you please just give Jenny a sign of our appreciation?
Good morning, everyone. I'm so grateful that you're here today. It's good to see not just parents and the choristers, but to see so many of you from the congregation who have touched our lives, have helped us along this journey, and have supported us. So thank you for being here. December 26th of 2016, I woke up in the morning after having a dream or a vision, and it was that I wanted to take the Trouvères on a trip somewhere to bring hope and healing and peace. And there are so many places in our nation that needed that. And my thoughts went immediately to the Deep South, or just even to Native American areas of our country that need so much healing. And I know that when I stand in front of them, I have this incredible healing feeling, and I wanted to pass it on. And at the end of 2016, we were wondering, where are we going as a country? So that information was overwhelming in my brain. And so I called Mike Kinman, and I said, Mike, I want to take the Trouvères on a tour, and I want to do some good work. And he said, okay, just tell me what you want to do. So we gathered together with some of our Trouvères, and we sat down with a map, and we said, okay, let's make a reasonable route, because I wanted to start in California and end on the East Coast, and that would have taken a month at least. So we narrowed it down, and I'm going to tell you the places that we went very briefly with no emotion, because it is very difficult to even mention some of the names of these places, but I want to get to what the youth have to say. So we took a plane from LA and landed in Atlanta, and we instantly drove on a bus to Montgomery, Alabama. And we took a red eye, and there was no sleep for 24 hours. And I took them to one of the most difficult places that we went to, which was the Peace and Social Justice Initiative Museum and Legacy Museum, and the Lynching Memorial in Montgomery. We also walked the streets where the slave markets were, and we saw where Rosa Parks had the bus boycott, and this was all in this area. You just walk, and everything is there. After we did that, we hopped the bus and we went to go see Ed and Hope, and we went to their home. We had a pool party, and then we went to sleep. That was 24 hours of being awake. The next morning, we got up and we went to Birmingham, and we had a rehearsal in the morning. We then went to the Civil Rights Voting Museum, and then we went to the 16th Street Baptist Church. I have to tell you that seeing our choristers walk down the stairs in the 16th Street Baptist Church, in the exact place where the girls lost their lives from that bombing, was very, very emotional and surreal. So these are some of the places that these youth were walking in these areas, and it was very impactful. So that very first night, we did our first concert after seeing those things, and you could hear the voices. You could hear it in their voices that these things were starting to affect them. The next morning, we got up and we went to Selma, and we went to the Brown Ame Chapel, which is the chapel that's right outside of the Edmonds-Pettus Bridge, and we heard from 3 freedom marchers who walked on Bloody Sunday and went to many of the gatherings as students at the Brown Ame Chapel. They did things with us like sing freedom songs and listen to our concert and tell us exactly what happened on those days. And then we were standing in places, the piano that was being used was a piano that would have been used during these rallies and freedom songs. That very exact piano was used to accompany us. They were standing up in the right behind the altar where Martin Luther King Jr. would have preached, and Malcolm X, and it was overwhelming. So after that, we went and we heard from another freedom marcher, Joanne Bland, who Mike actually preached about the weekend after we got back. At the end of this, you will see where we sang to her. And then we walked across the bridge together. And we're going to show you a video of that, that one Nahia put together of the choristers walking across the bridge together, and you're going to hear them singing 2 songs. You're going to hear them singing MLK, which we sang in the rotunda area of the Civil Rights Voting Museum, which is a beautiful echoey space, and then we sang Glory in the Brown Ame Chapel. That is also on this, that you're going to hear. After that, we took a 5-hour bus ride to New Orleans, slept, got up the next day, did New Orleans in a day, which was quite interesting. Can't do New Orleans in a day. And then we did a concert that night, and every time the youth went to sing, you could hear their voices change, every single time. So after that concert, we took a drive up to Memphis. We went to the Beale Street. We went to the Rock and Soul Museum. We what? Yes, that was the next day. Yeah, so that was what we did that day. Then the next day we got up and we went to the Lorraine Motel and walked through the Lorraine Motel. We sang right under the balcony where Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, and did a concert out there. We actually did one inside of the museum as well. After that, we went on to Ferguson. And I'm sorry? Oh my goodness, we did the Underground Railroad, the house on the Underground Railroad. We went to the Slave Haven. That's correct, thank you. I can't talk about that because it's too emotional. So after that, we went to Ferguson. We saw, this was really, truly, Mike took us on quite a pilgrimage. We went to the site where Michael Brown was killed, and saw exactly where this all happened. We went to the where his plaque is. We made a memorial there for him and gifted it with things that we offered. And then we heard from 2 freedom people that were involved in the Ferguson movement, for the Black Lives Matter movement. And heard their stories, and another woman who presented, and telling us exactly what happened at that time and why it is so important for us to be involved now. And after that, the next day, we went to we went to the courthouse. We went to the courthouse where the Dred Scott decision was made. We went to the Arch, and then the next morning we got up and we went to the City Museum and had a really good time. And by this time, it was so heavy on all of us. And the last concert that we did was at the Christ Church Cathedral, and you could really hear it in the voices of our youth, how impacted they were by what they saw. I'm going to let them speak, but for right now, I just want to show you this beautiful video of us all crossing the Edmonds-Pettus Bridge together.
to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtapositioning us. Justice for all just ain't specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us. Truant living in us. Resistance is us. That's why I rose and sat on the bus. That's why we walk through Ferguson with our hands up. When it go down, we woman and man up. They say stay down, and we stand up. Shots, we on the ground. The camera panned up. King pointed to the mountaintop, and we ran up. One day, when the glory comes, it'll be ours. It'll be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be strong. We will be strong. Oh, glory, glory, glory. Now the war is not over. Victory isn't won. And we'll fight on to the finish. And then when it's all gone, we'll fight glory, glory, Selma's now for every man, woman, and child. Even Jesus got his crown in front of a crowd. They march with the torch, we gon' run with it now. Never look back, we done gone hundreds of miles. From dark roads, he rose to become a hero. Facing the League of Justice, his power was the people. Enemy is lethal, a king became regal. Saw the face of Jim Crow under a bald eagle. The biggest weapon is to stay peaceful. We sing, our music is the cuts that we bleed through. Somewhere in the dream we had an epiphany. Now we right the wrongs in history. No one can win the war individually. It takes the wisdom of the elders, the young people's energy. Welcome to the story we call victory. The coming of the Lord, my eyes have seen the glory. One day, when the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be strong. We will be strong. Oh, glory,
That was, so my name is Monique Thomas. I am one of the co-chairs of the Racial Justice Ministry, and I had the privilege and honor of being able to go on this pilgrimage. It was life-changing, I think, for all of us who were there. It was probably the most incredible experience that I've had in my life. And we wanted to give an opportunity for our youth, our incredible youth, to talk about their experiences there. Part of this is for them to sort of relay the experiences that they had, but also for you to ask questions. We don't have a lot of time, so we'll be brief. So I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves, your name, and then it's been 5 months since this tour, right? So we've had a little bit more time to process, but maybe think about what was the most impactful thing for you from this tour? 5 months later, what stayed with you? And so we'll go around and start here. So your name and the most impactful thing for you.
My name is Mason, and the most impactful thing for me is when we went to the museum, one of the museums, and it had a bunch of lists of people who were lynched and why, and a lot of them were like for really unfair reasons.
My name is Soren, and the thing that had the most impact on me was the lynching monument with all the names of the people that have been lynched.
I'm Bella, and the thing that impacted me the most was how much I didn't know about everything that's happened.
Hi, I'm Amelia, and the thing that impacted me most is probably the Lynching Memorial.
I'm Charlotte, and the thing that impacted me the most was when we walked across the Selma Bridge.
Hi, I'm Hayden, and the thing that impacted me the most was seeing going to the site where Michael Brown was shot and killed.
Hi, my name's Jeremy. I kind of have two things that impacted me the most. The first was the Lynching Museum, where we found records of probably a good 300 people that were lynched in 3 days, and most of them were not named, and their names were unknown. And then also we met someone, Joanne Bland, who was marched in Selma on Bloody Sunday, and we heard her story.
Hi, I'm Willa, and the Michael Brown Memorial impacted me the most.
Hey, I'm Julian, and the Lynching Memorial impacted me the most.
Hi, I'm Diego, and what most impacted me was probably the 16th Baptist Street, where the 4 little girls died.
Hi, I'm Samantha, and I think the thing that impacted me the most was I got to learn more about my history and my culture.
I'm Adelaide, and what impacted me the most was seeing the way that the women in the church in Selma, how their faces lit up when they started singing their songs, their freedom songs.
My name is James, and what impacted me the most is seeing the soil from the places where the people were lynched.
My name's Alina, and what impacted me the most was seeing the slave haven.
My name is Phoebe. What impacted me the most was, the slave haven and the intricacies of the Underground Railroad and how hard it was to get through.
My name is Gabby, and what impacted me the most was whenever we sung for somebody who had gone through these things and seeing their face when we sung about what they had gone through.
So I'm now going to open it up to all of you. I'm sure that you have a lot of questions. And so we will get some mics passed around.
You just spoke about what impacted you the most. What surprised you the most on this trip?
I think what surprised me the most has to do with Selma and crossing the bridge. I had always thought of it as, ever since I saw the movie Selma and learned about the history of kind of this sacred memorial site that's holy and just altogether kind of like a living history. And walking across it was very impactful, not really as much for the reason of walking across it, but seeing all the cars go by. It's just a bridge that they have to cross every day. And seeing that, how life goes on this history, it kind of made me feel like solemn, like it's forgotten.
Maybe the fact that I knew so little about such a big thing that impacted our country.
I kind of want to off of what Diego said. It really surprised me how like little I had known going into this trip and how much I learned, which kind of surprised me because I feel like that in like the way we're taught in our schools, it makes the entire way of how we've been treating African Americans feel like this big misunderstanding, when in reality it's just been this mass oppression with like purpose. I don't know, but yeah.
I was really surprised by how many people were lynched when we went to the Legacy Museum. I never thought that the number was that big.
I would like to know why you felt the way you did about when you saw the place at Ferguson and Michael Brown. Why did it affect you so?
So when Michael Brown was killed, I was like 12 or 14, somewhere in there. And when I was that age, an 18-year-old was a large person and an adult. And as you get older, you realize that 18-year-olds are not adults. They're not. We're not. He's 18 and he's not an adult. No one treats... And so what impacted me was because I viewed this adult as being killed. And when I was there, I realized that he was a kid. And we're kids. And that was something I had never put together and something I hadn't thought about since his killing.
I think it's pretty easy to think that it's something of the past and that it doesn't exist as much today. And that's something that happens, in other communities. It's not us. It's not where we live. And it's easy to detach. And I think seeing that and knowing how much it hurt that community, and how wide of a radius that community could be, because it hurt people across the US. It was tough to see, and I think for a lot of us, it kind of connected everything we'd been learning about what had happened, 50, 60 years ago to now and what we're fighting right now.
This is...
Hi. So what I didn't know, what Mike told us about as we were there was that he pointed to, a square in the road. It looked like it had been redone or something, and that's normal enough. And Mike told us that his body had lain there for so long and the blood had soaked into the concrete, and that's why they had to take it out and put it back in. And it was, some people rightly felt that it was, horrible that they tried to cover it up, and at the same time, I felt that it was like, it's there now. It's not like the blood went away and now it's gone. It's going to be there forever because there's that square. And I almost felt a little bit grateful that it was going to be there forever. And that was something I didn't know. That surprised me. And that made it feel almost, I want to say biblical, like something about this killing made it, and the blood soaking into the ground seemed very symbolic, important.
I think I felt the way I did is while we were there, we were walking back and we heard this ice cream truck, and it was just playing the noise that any other ice cream truck would play. And I just thought about, sure, this is one person, but there are so many other kids in this world that because they were killed, they won't get to go to another ice cream truck. And that ice cream truck, it just drove by like a normal day. But he'll never see one of those again. And that was really hard for me to deal with.
Yeah, this is Justin McNeil. I've been a member here for quite some time, and I know since I was your age to the age I am now, I have really pushed myself to learn more about my own history, but also the history of others. So I ask a rhetorical question of you all, or for you to each think about this is, in addition to what you've seen and experienced, what action will you take individually in a response to that? And then, more importantly, what other part of our history, our world history, our American history, our North American history will you look into next so you know really what has happened? So that's just something to think about.
I'm curious about the reactions of some of the local people in Selma and other places, and whether you had opportunities to talk to them, interact with them, and what kind of reception. Were they happy to see you? Were they annoyed by you? Anything you can say about that would be of interest to me.
Well, the place that Michael Brown was killed is a residential street. right? Very quiet, very small street, and we come driving in, and then this huge bus with 60 people on it, and we did park a bit away, but I know that that was a thing that some people felt weird about, being in such a personal place in such a big impersonal bus. I don't know if that really counts.
Formally, as in set up meetings and times to meet them. We didn't really talk to anyone just off the street, from my memory. But the locals that we had meetings from, we sang, and we talked with all left, either in a state of hopefulness. One of them, I talked about how she was on the screen a bit while, Joanne Bland in Selma. She said, "You are the future we need," as we left, and that was echoed by a lot of people we met.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Jenny to say what she said yesterday about Joanne Bland, because I wasn't close enough to hear that, but I know that she had something that she said to her.
So you'll actually see it at the end of this, that we'll play that video. We stood around Joanne Bland, who gave her story of what happened on Bloody Sunday, and we sang MLK surrounding her, and we sang concerts to many people, and the most impactful concert that I felt was when we had an audience of one, and when we sang to Joanne, and she was in the center. And I don't know if you've ever been sung to by 41 people in beautiful harmony in a very echoey, beautiful space, but it's overwhelming. Choral music in itself is overwhelming, and then to have the emotion of experiencing time with Martin Luther King Jr. and having youth stand around you and sing, at the end of it, she burst out into tears, and she said, "You are the ones we've been waiting for. You have to be." And we all just kind of walked up to her, and I mean, like, what do you say? I remember Dennis walking away. Dennis is our 6'6" bass. He said, "We have to do something now. We have to. We can't let her down. We have to do something."
Is this? Hello. Hi. Wow. I just have a lot of admiration for you all to do that, and it's necessary. We really shouldn't. I mean, everyone should be doing that. So I'm so grateful that you did, and your parents supported it, and our church did. I can only imagine that there were a lot of intense feelings within the group after every day when you were processing some of the experiences that you were having, some of, especially coming from different racial, ethnic backgrounds and classes. And I was wondering if a couple of you wouldn't mind sharing how you processed some of these very painful and confusing feelings.
So we did have, after every time we went to a museum or we just came back to the hotel, we'd sit down for about 20 or 30 minutes and talk about what we saw that day. Usually Claudia would ask us, "So how are you feeling? Any strong emotions you need or have to get out?" Just most of the time we talked about how it impacted us or why that certain memorial or that certain museum was there in the first place, or things we saw around the city we were visiting that we noticed and we wanted to point out. Yeah, so usually it was just more of a casual thing, but sometimes when we'd go back to your room, we'd have a lot of deeper conversations because we were, I guess, in closer groups. And I don't know, yeah, there were a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions, I guess. But
So we're in hotel rooms with 3 or 4 people each, and I know in my room, we'd be like, oh my God, we have to wake up at 7 tomorrow, go to bed. And the lights would be off, and we'd be lying in bed, and we'd be talking and talking and talking. We just couldn't get ourselves to shut up. Because there is a lot to process, and sometimes what we would be talking about would be the things we'd experienced, and we'd be processing it like that, and sometimes it'd just be stupid, inconsequential stuff that we'd be talking about, and that's its own form of processing.
There is one phrase that got me through that entire trip. This is from Claudia Shields, and she'd say it a lot, but she'd ask how you were feeling, and you'd probably say, angry, mad, sad, not happy. And then she'd just say, that's appropriate. And I think a lot of that, like, that was what got us through. I was someone that was crying every night. I'm a crier. And so just thinking of that, that's appropriate. And I should be having these moments where I'm able to mourn these people and I'm able to take that feeling and use it in the future. That helped a lot. Thank you, Claudia, wherever you are.
Hello, thank you for your testimony up here. And 2 quick questions, just a couple answers. How do you feel now about the power of singing? Does it change how you sing now at church? And have you changed perspective at your individual schools? How do you see your fellow students at your schools you go to?
So I have to say, for singing, it depends on the song. Singing a song about how much we love God, it's not going to really change that much. But singing a song like MLK or Glory, it does, because we've been there, we've experienced this. Like whenever we hear, and especially in Glory, whenever Gabby would rap about this bridge, this bridge of Ferguson, I just kind of wanted to shout amen because we were there. And I think I've always kind of looked at my school and kids around me as kind of ignorant, bliss, because they're more concerned with their academics or their studies and things like this. However, my school now, it's a very prideful school, and I'm referring to the kind of LGBTQ pride. That's what the school is very concerned about. And there's no talk about this, and I kind of wish there was, that they'd focus their attention more on multiple things and not just one.
Okay. Well, about your second question about school, I don't think my view of the other people changed, but I think how I thought of myself and what I had to do changed. So we have a Black student union at school, and before we didn't really do anything. It was kind of just there to socialize. But right after we got back from tour, I called someone from that Black student union, one of my friends, also my age, and I said, do you want to do something this year? Like, we should actually do something. So since then, we've been trying to really get it going, and we're talking about issues that are issues, not just movies and TV stuff that we can talk about outside of that that group. And I think I realized from the tour I have to be more welcoming so people feel that they can learn about this history too. I think a lot of people, they feel scared to approach because they're like, oh, it's not my history, which I don't think is true. It's all of our history. So from the tour, I just realized I have to be that voice to bring people in so we're all aware of these things and we all can make that difference.
So we are running out of time. I feel like that when we knew that we would only have about 45 minutes to do this, and it's just not enough time to go through 10 days of this transformational pilgrimage that we were all on. But I have one last question that I want to ask a couple of you, if whoever feels called to answer. You've been transformed, obviously, from what you've all been saying, and you've come back here to All Saints. What is it that you feel, what do you want the congregation to know? What is it that we could do, even as a congregation, to know more or to support some of these causes?
Okay. Hi. So a big thing that I'm learning right now in school, we're studying American history, is about the origins of enslavement and racism and everything that came along with that. And the thing that you notice is that it's not because people just were. It's always because of money or power or politics. And it also has to do a lot with convenience and what's easy for people. And I think a lot of the time when we see things like the March for Our Lives movement, we see that it's convenient to go outside this one day and march for that. But then we don't carry that through because it's not convenient every day. And so I think the biggest thing that we can do is not only focus on these movements in times when it's easy for us and when it's handed to us very simply in the form of a march or a petition on the lawn or something like that. We need to do things on our own time and when it doesn't seem like it's convenient for us. And that's what I'd ask all of you to do, is to take moments that don't seem like they have to be focused on this and focus on it. And spend your time doing this work.
I think I want everyone to know kind of about how much has changed, and the answer to that is not a lot. Before this experience, I always thought, and I'm sure and I know a lot of people think this way, is that we've changed so much from the 60s. It was such a terrible time, and we're better now. But the hard truth is that we're not. It's just changed. Instead of spraying protesters with water and beating them with sticks, we throw tear gas at them and shoot them with beanbags. Instead of telling people that they have to count grains of sand to vote, we just purge their voter and refuse to let them. That's a huge thing that happened in Georgia this year. And I want people to know that things have not changed and that we're still living in this. It's just more discreet. And I have to think that it's hard for me to say, but kind of like there's a lot of talk now about how youth are the progressive, how we want to change. And like, I want people to know, not just the congregation, because I'm sure a lot of the congregation already knows this, but just the country to know that that change needs to happen, and we, the youth, desire to be that change. And we are not being paid to say that.
What else? What do you want? What do you want them to know? This is your chance. Really quickly, do you want to pass the mic around? Just really quickly. What do you want them to know? Like what you wrote in that box yesterday if you were there?
What I wrote in the box yesterday when we met at Mike's house is that I want everyone to know that people back then were treated unfairly and that they should be treated better now, even though they are, like, people are still like being mistreated these days. They should be treated better.
The thing that I wrote down was that you don't treat someone well just because you want to do it or because you're told to do it or whatever your reason is. You treat someone well because they are also human just like you.
I said that we have the power to make a difference.
I think I said that together we are stronger.
I said that it was a really inspiring trip and I'm never going to forget it.
Don't give up hope. Don't give up hope, please.
I wrote down basically the short-form answer of what I just said, which was we need to change and we desire to be the change.
I would just encourage everyone to go to at least one of these places that we went to because it's different to be there and feel the stickiness in the air and see the blood in the soil, and it's different than reading about it in every way.
I would just say that we are one, and though we've come a pretty long way, we still have a long way to go, and being one means changing together and working together. Yeah.
I'd like to say that this trip was life-changing, but while saying that, I kind of feel like that's an understatement. This trip really unified us all, I believe, and I feel like it's going to help us overcome the future or what's to come?
I feel like, well, what I wrote down yesterday was that this helped me make a connection to my history, but basically expanding on that a trip like this, a trip where you get to see your history, it can change your life forever. And it changed some of my views on my own history as well.
I want you guys to know that on this trip, I got a chance to look history in the eye, and I realized it's a living, breathing thing.
All of us play a part in shaping what will be history.
I want you to know that this trip was a huge opportunity for all of us.
It is not too late. You are not too old. And not just we, but we can do this together, okay?
So exactly what I was saying. Okay, the change that we make as 100 people is way bigger than the change 2 people can make. So if we all just do it together, it'll be so much better.
So we need to allow our streamers and say goodbye to them because the folks got to get over to the, you guys are trained well, to get over to the church for the 11:15 service. But I want to turn this over to Jenny, and she's got something to, first of all, can we just give a thanks to everyone? And shout out to Claudia Shields, Edna Trigg, Risa Worthy-Deemer, Nancy Necker, Monique Thomas. I'm gonna miss people. There's so many people who went on the trip and helped out. Thank you, Jackie Koo, everyone who helped out and everyone who gave for this.